Be a good time to start now. A few people may be missing because I heard they had a late night last night. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the other the nuns' monastery and also the Dhamma Centre as well. So it's a very active Buddhist group here. It takes a lot of work, but many very dedicated supporters and volunteers. And sometimes you wonder, is it all the hard work which people put in and to giving, to serving, looking after Buddhist societies, doing cleaning and cooking and all that serving. Sometimes you wonder is that just putting off my development, taking responsibility and making sure everybody's comfortable? Is that really the job you should be doing? Or should you just be off into a cave somewhere, into a nice peaceful place and just leave the world and just look after yourself? It's the old argument between the bodhisattva who just gives up their own happiness for the sake of others, or the one who just makes sure they get all the right conditions so they can become enlightened first. And both of those options, you've seen them, you've tried them, you feel that both of them, they're missing something really important. And the story which emphasizes just how to, looking after yourself or looking after others, is that both just misses a huge point in the Dhamma. And the story was that when I was performing marriage ceremonies. I can't actually solemnize the marriages because, the Thai Buddhist tradition, monks aren't supposed to be, that sort of involved with the marriage, but people always want blessings for their marriage. And the reason why they want blessings for their marriage from a monk is that there's something about a marriage, even though you think it may be secular, it may be attachment, there is still something in that which many people feel is like some spiritual, some little ceremony which is higher than the ordinary commitments one has. Like signing the marriage register is not quite like signing the contract to buy your car. And there's something a bit more high-minded than that. And one of the reasons is because if you are going to engage in anything like a marriage, you have to let go of a lot of what you want to do. So one of the first this is not really what I wanted to speak about this morning, but I just started here. One of the first things which I say in a marriage, is that a man, when he's single, is like a two-legged animal. He can go wherever he wants in the world. And a woman, when she's single, two-legged, she can go wherever she wants in the world. But when you're married, it's like you're one animal with four legs. You're joined. And you know what it's like in the Asian tradition, whether it's Indonesia or whether it's in Hong Kong. It's just a tradition, I'm sorry, but the front legs have to be the man and the back legs have to be the woman. But in Asia, because I've lived in Asia, visited many times, in Asia, yeah, it's true, the front legs are the man, the back legs are the women. But those four-legged animals in Asia, they always walk backwards. But whatever. Sometimes I just walk around in circles. I don't know. But anyway, whatever. That little story which I've told many times when I do the blessing for the marriage, and I usually look into the bride's eyes first of all. It's a marriage day, the happiest day of her life. And I tell them it's all downhill from here. Where's the happiest day of your life? It must be downhill. No, seriously, I say to her, I want to make an important point. And I say that from now on, you're a married woman, and you must never, from today on, think of yourself. And whenever I do this, the wife, the new bride, always smiles sweetly and sort of nods her head, yes, I won't think of myself from today on. And then I look at the husband and say with you, from today on you must not think of yourself, you're a married man now. And if it's an Australian man, he always pauses first of all. Not think of myself, and say, oh, okay. But then, after a little while longer, then I look at the husband and I say to him, and also, from this moment on, you're a married man, you mustn't think of yourself, but you must never from this moment on think of your wife. And then quickly looking to the girl, and you must not think of him, your husband. And if they haven't heard this simile before, it's a wonderful moment because they look so confused. And you can read their mind. You don't need psychic powers to read their mind. It's who's this crazy monk we've asked to come and bless our marriage? What do you mean we mustn't think of each other? And I said that's true. Once you're married, not think of yourself, not think of your partner. Because once you're married, you must think of us. It's like the third option. It's not about me. It's not about him or her. It's about us. You're in it together. And a little thing. If you have a problem, a difficulty in your time together, whose problem is it? It's not her problem. Oh, wives. It's not his problem, selfish husbands. It's our problem. Because when we take it from me or him to us, we find there's always a solution. So, some marriages are Hinayana marriages. They just did it for themselves. And some people in a marriage, they're Mahayana, they're Bodhisattvas, they just give sacrifice to somebody else, which means that they just get burnt out after a while. There's nothing in it for them. So in any marriage, in a family, in a community, that we always have to have the idea, it's not about me or him or her, it's always about us. That's why it's a community. And that's been something which I've tried to emphasize in our Buddhist Society of Western Australia, Dhammasara Nuns Monastery. Yeah, there is a thing like an abbot, a boss monk, but sometimes I wonder, is that really just the truth of the matter, or is that I serve as much, even harder than other people? Maybe some of you ask me, Ajahn Brahm, why didn't you have an attendant with you during this retreat? And I said, well, I'm already busy enough. If I had an attendant, that'd be one more monk I had to look after. And that's the truth of it. So, but it's looking after one another is the most important. Also, when I go to Indonesia, when I go to Hong Kong, people say, why aren't you like other monks and travel with an attendant? And I said, I do travel with an attendant. When I go to Hong Kong, I travel with about 20 attendants. They're called flight attendants. And they come, no extra charge with the ticket. But sometimes we wonder about just how much we give and how much we spend time by ourselves. It's the balance of service and just solitude, what you need and also what you can give, your kindness. And as a young monk, I don't know what it was, but I was always volunteering to do this service or that service, go and look after the visas for monks, and do other services. Because how I understood that if you are going to practice meditation, if you are going to let go and be peaceful and be able to get into wonderful deep meditation, it does take a lot of letting go, a lot of giving up, not expecting nothing back in return. It's otherwise called service. And it's the privilege to be able to help, even though you don't need to be helped. And this was first learnt when there was a custom over in northeast Thailand that when the teacher came back, from alms round, we would never wear sandals. We just wear, we wouldn't wear anything, just bare feet. So when you were walking, through the lanes and the pathways through the villages, it would always be quite dirty. So when you came back and you entered the hall, you'd always have to wash your feet. And of course, it didn't take much to wash your feet, just to get the dirt off and then dry them very quickly. But when the teacher came back, Ajahn came back, he'd never washed his feet. Other monks washed his feet for him. And I couldn't believe it that when he first came into the hall, there was about a dozen monks on each toe. They were surrounding him, and they were jostling for position, trying to get some part of his feet to wash. And I thought that must be really uncomfortable and unpleasant. And number two is he was big enough, old enough to wash his own feet. What did he need any help for? And then, okay, maybe if you do have to have someone help wash your feet, maybe just one monk on each foot, and just maybe have a roster, a list, today you can do it and today someone else can do it. Because that's what I thought should happen when, having grown up in the West, you have a roster and a list of duties. But it was all these monks, they just rushed in there, they didn't have any rosters. And it took me a long time to get the courage up to, what we do in Buddhism, we experience it for ourselves. Pachatang veditabo vinyuhiti. That every person to experience for themselves. Try it out, test it out, come and see. I decided to do an experiment. I was a scientist before. So the only way to find out the truth of things is give it a try. Try it, see if it works. So I managed to get back really early from one of the alms rounds. I was all ready, and I was like a cat, poised, waiting for the first sign of Ajahn Chah to come around the corner. And when I saw him, I jumped up and ran to the bowl wash place. And I was fast. I got a toe all by myself. And I washed that toe, and I looked up, and I was so happy. And I thought, what is going on? You get ecstasy from washing a toe of a monk. And then I got it, about the idea of service, of giving. Just how much fun and joy it is to be able to help and give to other people. Why? Because it's a letting go. It's not thinking about myself. It's just, what can I do to help somebody else? And of course, that is also why you see me playing around, opening the door for you. Now, of course, you're not supposed to do that in Asian traditions. Open the door for a monk. You're supposed to be a big monk. I don't mean this way. I mean like senior and well known. That way too. We can't do that. You're supposed to go first, Ajahn Brahm. Oh, you have a try. And sometimes it helps. And sometimes the law of karma is really weird. But there was one of my fellow monks some years ago, and do you know that festival they have in Thailand? It's called the Songkran Festival. when they throw water over everybody, and there's blessings. And that was just, monks aren't exempt from that. They throw water over the monk to bless them. And in the first year I was here, after doing the chanting and the ceremony, it was on the Songkran day, where we do the celebrations and the water blessings. And I was just leading the monks out in line. The old tradition, the senior monk comes first and the next monk is second. And I was leading them out, not realizing that was this quite naughty Thai lady who had a bucket of water with my name on it to bless me. But just before I went out the door, another person, Ajahn Brahm, can I ask a question about sort of meditation? And no, just very kind. They said, oh yeah, okay, I'll ask the question. You go on ahead. Well, that monk never forgave me for that. He got the bucket of water all over him. But that was Ajahn years ago. He got the bucket of water. So that's instant karmic help. When I was helping somebody else, I avoided a bucket of water over me. But it's not just that sometimes when one gives a little bit of service, you look at the end of the retreat, and what have you done? What's happened? Sometimes you may think, I got this very nice meditation, I just got this wonderful state of mind. But other times you will remember that somebody missed their breakfast, and you brought it to their room. Or somebody was feeling a bit sort of tired, and you just helped. This is a little bit cold. Here, this is the heater, turn it on here. Some of that kindness is actually what stays with you more than anything else. Because that kindness is an instant joy, and it's something which does create a sense of community. And of course, sometimes, it's troublesome, it's difficult, you haven't got much time, but it does work. There was, the last time I was in the West Coast of United States, in San Francisco, the Bay Area, that I was told that I always thought that California had such good coverage, some internet coverage. You can get signal almost anywhere. There's many sort of dark spots over in Northern California where you just don't get any mobile coverage unless you have a satellite phone. So anyway, there was a gentleman who had broken down in his car in one of these areas, a bit remote, and a farmer passed by, and the farmer, and all farmers, whether it's in Australia or UK or here, that especially in Australia, that it's so remote in some places, you have to know something about mechanics. You have to, be able to help, because if you get lost or you get broken down, you can be broken down for days. You can't get any signal, so you have to just depend upon the kindness of passers-by. And so this farmer passed his car, which was broken down. The guy's standing by the side of the road, and of course he was busy, but he decided to stop and help. And it wasn't much of a problem, so the farmer could pretty easily fix it. And he shook the hand of the driver, and just the farmer went on his way, and the owner of the car went on his way. And about a week or two later, the farmer got a letter in his mail from the bank. And the bank announced in the letter, the formal letter, that all his debts had been paid off, that the farm debts, car debts, house debts, and a substantial amount of money had been put in his credit, courtesy of Mr. Bill Gates. Bill Gates knows how to fix a computer, hasn't got a clue about fixing a car, apparently. And like many of those sorts of people, They just like just, getting in a car and being a nobody, being ordinary, because through the windows of the tinted car you don't know who's inside. And so because of that, he can just go wherever he wants. And so the celebrities love doing that. And he was broken down, and the farmer helped. He didn't know who he was. The farmer may be just too busy just making crops to look at the TV, and it was Bill. And he didn't have any cash on him. So people like that don't need cash. But he just took down the number plates of the farmer and found out who he was, and then just said thank you. So if you ever see anyone broken down in this area, you can go straight past, because there's no rich people live down here. No, don't do that. Stop and help them. You never know who it might be. But it reminds me of that other story about the, who was it? It was the, that's right, the Pope. The Pope was visiting Australia. And, of course, they organised a limo for him and a driver. And when they organised a limo and the driver for the Pope, they were driving down the road. It was quite a distance, because everything's far apart in Australia. And so halfway down the journey, the Pope talked to his chauffeur. He said, "Are you a Catholic?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I'm a Catholic." And he said, the Pope said, "So am I." And he said, said the Pope, "I always wanted to drive a car, a nice limo like this, but they won't let me." He said, "Of course you can't drive a car, that's my job. You sit in the back, relax," said the chauffeur. He said, "Look," said the Pope, "I'm sure you've done some sin or something, and I've got the power to wipe out all your sins if you let me drive the car." "Okay," said the driver. So he parked, they swapped seats. The Pope put on the hat, the chauffeur's hat, and the chauffeur sat in the back. And because the Pope had never driven a car for a while now, he put his foot down, open road, zoom. And would you know the Pope's luck, a motorcycle cop saw the speeding car, came right up next to him and told him to pull over. So the Pope pulled over and wound down his window. And as soon as the motorcycle cop saw who it was, he rang up to the station. And the station said, "Look, I need backup." "What do you need? Do you need backup?" "Look, I saw this car speeding down the road." "Well, just give him a ticket. Arrest him." "I can't. It's an important person. I don't care who it is. It's a very important person." "Look, give him a ticket. It's a very, very, very important person." "Who is it?" "Well, I'm not quite sure," said the motorcycle cop, "but his chauffeur is the Pope." You can think about who that must be. Why did he back up? But when we sort of look after one another and serve one another and help one another, it's just wonderful just to see that degree of letting go, not really thinking of oneself. When I was doing all that work as a young monk, I thought, I must be just like a bodhisattva in a previous life and just helping others. That must be my path. And then very happy to allow other monks to go off and while I was doing their visas and covering their jobs, they would go off in the caves and the mountains and meditate. But when they would come back after the to do their visas, then we'd talk, and it was weird. My meditation was much deeper than theirs, and they had much more idyllic situation. And I thought, why? It doesn't make any sense. You don't have any work to do. You're by yourself. I'm trying to help out with all these other things for you. Why is your meditation not deep enough? And their meditation was like dry. It didn't have any oomph to it, no joy, no happiness. And it was years before I realized just how important that joy and happiness is. And the example of that was when, in those early days, that all our robes, we'd have to make these ourselves, starting with white cloth. And we've got this white cloth, we'd have to learn how to use a sewing machine, to first of all cut it and then sew it into the pattern of a Buddhist monk's robes. And then you have to wash all the oil and grease out of it and then dye it with a natural dye, which took days to make. We used the dye from a jackfruit tree, the sap. And so we would have to, first of all, get the water from the well, like I said the other day, and then we had to build a fire and boil the water, and then with a machete just to chop up the branches of a jackfruit tree which had fallen in the wind. And then we would chip it up, boil it to get the sap out, and that was the natural dye. Concentrate it, and then put it over the white robes and pummel it to get the dye to take to the white cloth, and then put it on the line, turn it continuously. You couldn't leave it, otherwise the dye would streak. It took days of work. It was almost like an initiation to see whether you had enough commitment and persistence to live as a monk. We had to do it ourselves. So it became the tradition that monks who were going to ordain had to make from scratch, from new, their set of 3 robes. And that there was a group of 4 monks, they were doing their set of 3 robes. One of them, he became, any Thai person would know him because he became quite a well-known monk, a Japanese monk. His name was Shibahashi, but people can't really pronounce that in Thai, so he became known as, Ajahn gave him this name, Si Baht Ha Sip. And if you know, baht is the Thai currency, so it would translate it as $4.50. So that became his name, Si Baht Ha Sip. $4.50. But anyway, that he was ordaining, and there's about 3 of them were ordained. They had to make all this stuff, and they couldn't just take a break. It was like full on, sort of 24 hours, and they'd been awake for a couple of nights already, doing their robes, and they couldn't just stop. They had to keep on going. And just after one evening chanting and meditation, I went up to them and said, "Look, I know this is against the rules. You just go and take a rest, take a break. I'll look after the dye pot tonight." Because, it's supposed to be their job. But you know what it's like if you haven't slept for a day, haven't slept for 2 days. It's just, you really sort of feel very unpleasant. So, they never argued with me. They were off. And just take a nap for 4 hours. So I was doing the dye pot all night by myself. I'm very skilled, very fit in those days. And then when the bell came, 3 o'clock in the morning, the bell came, and 5 minutes later they arrived to carry on the work. Thank you so much. I had 4 hours sleep. I was still tired, but that just took the worst part of it off. And I went to the morning chant. I didn't want to make anyone know that I'd broken the rules and they'd had a rest. So I just went. I had all this energy. It was amazing. I hadn't sort of slept all night. No tea or coffee. And you were just sitting up there perfectly straight, very clear mind. They're chanting, "Yo, so!" really loud, really full power. And then after that, we went on arms round, and I couldn't understand why. Why have I got so much energy and so much power? And just, I haven't slept all night. And I asked the senior monk on the way, but I confessed to him. I said, "Look, I gave them a break last night because they were really tired. So I'm sorry, it's my idea, so don't blame those young novice monks." And the senior monk said, "Oh, that's okay, you're just being compassionate and kind." But I said, "Why? I haven't slept all night, I've got so much energy." And that's when he said, "Because you didn't think of yourself, you helped others." And I really got that. That sometimes that when you think, "Oh, I need this extra bit of food," you give it to somebody else. Oh, I need some sleep. No, you go and help somebody. Oh, give it to somebody else. Because that, you get huge amounts of energy from that. And that's one of the reasons why. Sometimes it's not the people who just manage to come up in the morning and go back afterwards and no duties, no jobs to be done. And then somebody who just maybe is a volunteer, or may not be a volunteer, but at least they help others. And somebody needs something washed and they just wash it anyway. It's not their job, but they do it because it needs to be done. Or they go to the laundry and you see that somebody's washing is already finished and you very clearly put it on the line for them. It's on the line, you take it in because it's raining. People like that are the ones who have huge energy. And you get nice meditation. And good meditation too. Weird at first until you understand that this is a power which comes from letting go. Not worried about oneself, but just have this beautiful heart of giving and how we can help. And it gives you so much happiness afterwards when you realize that's how it works. And for years and years I've been trying to suggest this, but very rarely it happens that people really listen and just give it a try. You know that depression is a very, very a big disease of our modern world, and many people, they try and fight depression or trying to alleviate it by taking sort of medication, some meditation as well. But you know, one of the wonderful ways of dealing with things like depression is doing some community service, helping others, volunteering. Number one, you're taking the attention off oneself and how one feels and how one is being maltreated, and you give it to somebody else, that energy. Well, I learned that, well, not really depressed, but you're going through ups and downs in student life, because I was a Buddhist when I was 16. So when I was at university, that I was joined the Buddhist Society in Cambridge. And it's also one of the reasons why I put energy when I give my talks. Because you know what happened? I used to go and listen to these talks of all these famous monks and famous Buddhists. There were a few there at the time. And I would fall asleep during the talk. They're really so boring. So I decided, well, if I give a talk, I'm never going to do things which are boring like that. I'm going to really put some energy into the talks which I give. And so that's where I learned that one from, put energy into the talks. But it was when I was, although sometimes it doesn't work, because I don't know, many people, maybe in Hong Kong or maybe in other places, many people come and say to me that they listen to my talks on YouTube or actually on podcasts, and they say that's the only way they can go to sleep at night. Oh. They say, no, it's just a nice, reassuring, calm tone of your voice. Thank you. But anyhow, so when I was listening to all these talks over in Cambridge, where was I going with this? I was going, I don't know, got lost. You know, one of the troubles is that sometimes people say, Ajahn Brahm, you're getting old. Have you had it checked for Alzheimer's yet, or dementia? And then, but I know a few sort of Alzheimer's dementia specialists. And I gave some presentations with them in hospitals. And about, first of all, the medical thing and the mind way. And you know that it really got me a bit worried, because they said, you know what the signs of dementia are? Signs of dementia, or some of the most important signs of dementia, is you let go of the past, you don't plan for the future, and you're socially disengaged. I thought, oh my goodness. I've been teaching people to do that for a long time. I'm on the biggest courses of dementia. But as long as you know how to pronounce it and know how to spell it, then you're fine. So anyway, the reason I was saying that was over in Cambridge, that I was an out-and-out Buddhist, but I had friends who were Christians. We had these discussions about Christianity and Buddhism, and then just one day they told me that they had been volunteering to do some community service with people with Down syndrome in the local sort of institution, not far in Fulbourn. And that I was so busy, I didn't want to do stuff like that, but I thought, if the Christians can do it, then I can. That's all it was, pride. Just keeping up with the opposition. And I did that just to show Buddhists are as good as the Christians. Totally sort of ignorance and pride and nothing to do with real Buddhism. But anyway, I went along there and I lasted for 2 years in that place. Every afternoon. And I looked forward to it. And I literally enjoyed it. And of course, at the time, I don't know why. I don't know, but I'm having fun. One thing I always remember there was just, it was a place where I learned, my first lessons in emotional intelligence. Not just intelligence as in the form of being able to solve differential equations or to understand quantum physics. Because, I knew a lot of quantum physicists, a lot of professors, a lot of famous ones too. But I also remember you think it was on a Thursday afternoon, just going to this institution with people who were supposed to be deficient, disabled, less than others. But they would come up to me very often. They'd run towards me, put their arms around me and say, "What's wrong?" I'd just broken up with my girlfriend the night before. They would see it straight away. How the heck can you do that? They were so sensitive and aware in ways which I hadn't learnt yet. And so, sometimes that so-called community service, I learned so much. I wasn't doing service, I was actually gaining. Every time I tried to give something, I get much more back than I ever gave. And so these are places where if one does have any sort of problems in life or any sort of depressions, anxieties, how about just going to volunteer in an old people's home? Just sit down and talk to people. Just hold their hands. There was, this is not my story, it's another person over in Australia, and I heard her at a conference, and she said she became quite a well-known counsellor, unconventional counsellor, and I think she wrote some book or whatever, I forget what it was, because she had suffered from cancer herself, shouldn't have survived but did, and learned so much from it. And there was a lady actually from San Francisco. She came all the way, I think this lady was in Sydney, all the way to Sydney to have some counselling, some help, have a session or two with this unconventional therapist. And so sat together in a room together, and like many, you realise that ordinary treatment just doesn't work. Like for many people, they're so individual, the standard stuff should be put aside and just to open up your heart and see what comes out. And intuition is far more common than people believe or people give credence for. So this woman just made her mind peaceful and quiet, and straight away the idea came, when was the last time you played the violin? And this was a person who had anxiety, had cancer which was not going away, had some depression, had so many litany of physical and emotional problems. And why this word came out, when was the last time you played a violin? And she just burst into tears. Because it turned out that she was from high society in San Francisco, parents very wealthy, and she wanted to play the violin. She loved the violin when she was a child. But her parents said, no, you shouldn't play violin. That's not right for you. And they stopped her and prevented her. And for this lady, it was a symbol of repression, a symbol of not being able to do what she wanted to do, but doing what other people expected of her. And that sort of emotional constraint, being in a prison of what she should do, rather than what her heart wanted to do, was one of the main causes of her chronic diseases. And from that, it was, what else would you love to do? So I haven't got much time to do anyway. I love stories. So, go back to San Francisco, and then just, you're wealthy, you can actually get a little society going to read stories to children in the Burns units. Because kids in the Burns units, they can't go out because everything inside the Burns unit has to be sterile. In case there's even the slightest disease, the slightest infection, they're so vulnerable for that. So just go in there and volunteer. You'd have to scrub up and sterilize yourself or whatever it is. And she started this wonderful little society of volunteers who are willing to spend the hours, they're just preparing before they can go into the Burns unit, and just to read tales and stories to kids who were stuck in there for weeks or months, until their wounds recovered. It gave her meaning for life. It gave her to do what she loved doing. And from that she learned, about 3 or 4 years I think she lived, before eventually the cancers took her away. And it was just an example, just giving to somebody else, even though she thought that, I'm dying, I'm the one who needs something. No, you give. And that sort of gave her so much healing. To this day, that sometimes when we have problems with depressions and feeling lonely, there's so many other people where you can help, serve, give, and actually you're not giving, you're getting so much back in return. And so that's one of the reasons why that this is a free source of energy and joy and happiness. And it's simply, that's why sometimes you just, I don't know, do you wash each other's plates? Or do you have to take your own plates and then sort of put it on the counter where somebody does the washing? I don't know what you do over here. Half and half. Yeah, okay, well, you can do that. As soon as the plate is finished and you take it, I'll take it. No, I'll do it. No, I'll do it. Actually, don't even argue, just take it and do it. But make sure they finish their lunch before you take their plate. Just like washing your teacher's toe. It was fun. Totally unnecessary. You don't need to do that. But it was fun to do it. And so when one understands the idea of service is letting go of yourself and just giving for others. And it creates so much happiness and stops all the negativity which just drags your energy down, so you can't really meditate because you're just fighting just this big heavy rock you're carrying on your back of your neck. But even when I was a school teacher, I used to practice service and ask other kids to do service just to give them some greater energy. And that was the time, like at any school, when you gave out the report cards at the end of the year. The end of the year report cards, and I was teaching a class of 30 kids. And of course, in a class of 30 kids, one kid has to come bottom of the class. They have to. You have to have a bottom of the class. It doesn't mean they're dumb. You may have a class full of 30 Einsteins. But one of them will have to be the least Einstein, and so they get bottom of the class. So anyway, there was the 30 kids, And I gave out the report card to the boy who came bottom. And he knew he'd done badly. He didn't realise how badly. And he opened the report card. And you could see he was shocked, disappointed, depressed. You could see the signs of depression. The shoulders go down, head goes down, the mouth goes down. And again, you could understand what he must be thinking. Thinking of what his friends would say to him. Dummy, just get yourself a brain in a vacation. Whatever it was, but nothing like what he was going to get from his parents when he went home. Bottom of the class, all his privileges, all the things he enjoyed, he'd have to do extra work, extra studies, no going out, no watching the TV, just studies. You get really a terrible scolding from his mother and father. So you can see he was depressed. And so, you're not just a school teacher, you're a kind young man. I was in those days. Still, I'm not a kind young man anymore. I'm a kind old man. But I went up to him and I said, bottom of the class, yes, sir. He said, well done. He looked at me, well done. Now, I'm a Buddhist. How do you know I was a Buddhist? Just an aside, that in those days, maybe some of you can recognize that tradition, the English tradition, that in the morning you used to have assembly before the school started. And every school teacher, the master, had to actually take the assembly for 1 week. And when it was my turn, I was on the roster to do the morning assembly. I asked the principal, is it all right if I teach his kids to meditate? And that was in 1973. So if you think that, meditation, mindfulness has only just recently come into school, I taught 650 kids every morning for 5 days how to meditate. 1973. And it was a very courageous thing to do. But that's what some of the teachers thought, but it wasn't courageous, it was stupid, because I never really thought of the danger. And the danger was you had 650 kids in the assembly hall. And I came up there and I said, we're now going to do some meditation, so cross your legs, and all the kids cross their legs. Close your eyes, and all the kids close their eyes, straight back. Right hand in front of the left hand. Watch your breath go in, your breath go out. And for 5 minutes, that assembly hall was absolutely quiet. No one moved. No noise. And the teachers said, that was amazing. There wasn't a sound. There's 650 kids from 11 to 17, 18, men and girls, male and female. And only afterwards said, what would you have done if one of the kids, especially one of the small kids, had laughed? And only then did I realise just how dangerous that was. Because if one kid had laughed, the whole lot have laughed. And I'd have lost my respect from the kids. But everyone was so quiet. 650 of them. And afterwards, it was strange. After I'd finished, okay, you can open your eyes now, they all clapped. I've never seen them do that in the whole year I was there. So, you teach meditation there. I wouldn't say it was courage, it was just stupidity, because I never even entertained the idea that would actually happen. If I'd have thought about it, I'd have been in big trouble. But anyway, back to even meditating, it's just you're letting go, you're giving up, you're not wanting anything back in return for what you're doing, and you're serving. Remember, when you're meditating, at least you're not a pain in the neck for the people you have to live with. You're sitting down quietly, peacefully, you're getting out their way anyway. But it's more than that. It's actually sometimes when you're meditating, and if you think you can't meditate, it means you're trying to get something out of it. How about doing an offering of half an hour just to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Just to sit down quietly. That's all I'm doing, just offering half an hour to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. Anything else which occurs, it'd be extra. Even if I fall asleep or I'm restless, whatever happens is extra. The very fact I'm sitting down, closing my eyes, and just giving my attention to this moment, giving my respect to my teacher by sitting down quietly, peacefully, and giving just my devotion to the Buddha, because this is how the Buddha asked me to practice. Giving just this moment to the person who taught me Ajahn, out of gratitude for him. So I'm just not expecting anything else except just to be able to sit here quietly for half an hour. And if you give not expecting anything back in return, especially not expecting, then you find that everything gets very peaceful and happy and calm, and you get very deep in meditation. As soon as you expect something or want something, of course, that's when everything goes wrong. You may remember in the Sutta class, the first teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, and that's why I haven't mentioned this yet, but there are two types of meditation. You know what the two types of meditation? Oh, crikey, what is it told you? What are the two types of meditation? Anyone know? You're very smart. All my tricks you know by now. Most people, when I ask what are the two types of meditation, they say, samatha vipassana. No. That's not what I mean. Two types of meditation are called Second Noble Truth meditation, Third Noble Truth meditation. Second Noble Truth is wanting, causes suffering. Third Noble Truth, letting go of wanting, causes bliss, enlightenment, nibbana. So the two types of meditation. Wanting, meditation. Where does that lead? Suffering. So if you've been suffering, frustrated, disappointment, why? What type of meditation have you been doing? Second Noble Truth meditation. You're wanting something. Wanting causes suffering. Suffering means you must be wanting something. Third Noble Truth meditation. Letting go. Letting go of wanting. This is good enough for me. This is all I need to be able to sit here giving half an hour to the Buddha, or an hour, whatever it is. I don't ask anything, just the opportunity just to sit, close my eyes and just to give. Not expecting, just to give, to serve, with my eyes closed. And you find then, that's called Third Noble Truth meditation. Just happy to be here. I was going to just do quickly the simile of the prison. I think many of you heard that about the monk who went to visit the prison, and when he told the prisoners what it's like in jail, and the prisoners were just so amazed. Sorry, what's like in Bodhinyana monastery. In Bodhinyana, you've actually been there, you've visited. Just the one meal a day, maybe a breakfast in the morning over there, and they just sleeping on the floor, very simple, no TV, no sport, and even the food all in the same bowl. So a lot of times that a prisoner's life in Australia is far more comfortable. Prisoners could watch World Cup soccer. They could just, have midnight snacks. They could do all sorts of stuff in jail. And they get really good food if you want. Cantonese, you can get Cantonese. You can get fish and chips. You can get sort of spaghetti. If you're Italian, you can get whatever you want in those jails. But not in monastery. Well, I did have the other day spaghetti bolognese, but it had strawberry ice cream on top.
What do you think it tastes like? Are you disgusted? Spaghetti bolognese with strawberry ice cream? How many of you have ever eaten spaghetti bolognese with strawberry ice cream on top? I have. I'm the only one who knows what it's like. And it is disgusting. It's terrible. It just doesn't go together. But anyhow, so in jail, you get lots of nice food there, and you can sleep, you can rest, you can play soccer, you can watch a TV, so much stuff you can do there. You can do courses and stuff. But at Bodhinyana Monastery, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, always early if you want to, and you work hard. And so anyway, that was the place when the time they said, terrible in your monastery. Why didn't you come and stay in prison with us instead? And they didn't realize what they were saying. But there was some truth to it. Now why? Why people, there is a waiting list trying to get into Bodhinyana Monastery. It's hard to get there. And there's a waiting list, so they tell me, of prisoners trying to get out of jail. Why? And prisons are far more comfortable than Bodhinyana Monastery. Why don't monks try to get out? It's only because they want to be there. If you want to be somewhere else, you're in jail. When you let go of wanting and happy to be here, you're free. It's called Third Noble Truth Meditation. Happy just to be here. Kind, serving, looking after others, looking after yourself. Because there is no me and you. There's only us. We're in it together. So in your meditation, never think of me. Never think of them. Always think of us. If you understand that, you understand it's not in it for me. No wanting. Just being. Letting go of wanting. And then you find the meditation just happens. Already, some of you have already had experience when you least expect them. You're not wanting anything. You're sitting here and just things start to happen. If they do start to happen, don't interfere with them. Just let the karma, just go with the karma, go with the flow, and you find you have a wonderful time. And of course you are totally, 100% safe. Better than safe, because often all of the diseases and stuff and problems disappear. You get wonderful insights, wonderful good health, wonderful happiness. And the other simile, I was going to mention this, to make sure you feel totally safe. I mentioned the story about this, the Indonesian monk, Sudama, but there was another monk in the time of the Buddha. It's in the suttas. And he was meditating in the jungle, and he got into a deep meditation, and it wasn't a flood which got to him. It was 2 villagers who were searching for mushrooms or herbs in the forest, and they saw this monk sitting perfectly still. They went up close to him, and he was really still. They thought, oh my goodness, the venerable monk has died. And they were Buddhists. We can't leave this monk to be eaten by the jungle animals. We must do something. What should we do? They were in the forest, so wood was plentiful. They got some old wood, dry wood, made a bonfire and put the venerable monk on top. They made a funeral pyre. And they lit the wood to cremate the monk. And once the fire was really roaring, then they went to get their herbs or mushrooms, whatever they're trying to get, and thinking the fire would do the rest. And the following morning, this was in the suttas, they were so surprised to see that monk walking into the village for alms food. Not even his clothes were damaged. That was weird. But that's what happens. So if they do make a mistake when you go back to Hong Kong, and they do think you're dead, but you're only meditating, and they do put you in the crematorium, and the ovens, and they do light the fire, what will happen to you? When the crematorium attendant opens up the oven door, hi, me again. You still be unharmed. You may think that that's an exaggeration, but that's actually what happens. So you're perfectly safe. So you don't need to worry and interfere with processes. When you're having a wonderful time, just go with the meditation, have a great time. So anyway, I don't know what I was talking about, but it started off on one thing, finished off on another, but I hope you enjoyed it. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. So this afternoon, this morning still got some interviews, and then have lunch, and in the afternoon, a Sutta class, and then afterwards, I should warn you that because tomorrow is a big celebration over in Bodhinyana Monastery, you will notice many of the tables and chairs disappear. So if you look who the table thieves are and who the chair robbers are, it is the monks. So we're going to try and leave a couple of tables there, but it may mean in the evening, if you want to make yourself a cup of tea or something for the evening, if you want to sit down somewhere and don't like the floor, you can take it to your rooms, into your cottages. And also tomorrow morning for the breakfast. I don't know how that's going to work, but it'll be one or two. You can be able to get tables, be able to get your breakfast and then take it back to your rooms, for those of you still staying here for tomorrow morning. And of course afterwards then we have this big celebration, entry to the rains day, and that'll be over at Bodhinyana. You don't need to worry about food, because there'll be more than enough food, lunchtime for everybody over at Bodhinyana Monastery. And also for the evening, still have a few questions and then a metta meditation as well before we finish off for the evening. Okay, anything else? All the servers? Excellent. So, interviews and have a wonderful morning.